Hello today, my name is Luke Hinsley and I intend to run as an independent candidate in the next federal election for the electorate of Corio. My last video, my introduction, received a small but positive response, so I'll take that as a win. I've been a bit quiet since then as I've had some physical health issues to deal with, but that's not what this video is going to be about. Trigger warning, I'm going to be discussing mental health. Mental health is not something that's easy to talk about, even for me. It's easier to sit down in front of a camera and talk to strangers than it is to sit down with friends and family and speak frankly. I'm hoping that by talking openly and honestly, we can help tackle some of the stigma around it. I have depression. It's something I've struggled with for a long time. It's known as a disease of despair, and it's unfortunately on the rise. Aspects of it are very much related to government policy, not just the obvious of access to health care, although that is vitally important. The treatment and diagnostic options are restricted by what the government is willing to cover. Expanding Medicare to include mental and dental coverage is absolutely necessary. It's a policy position of mine and I intend to fight for it. There's also the indirect ways that government policy affects mental health. Inaction on climate change is a major one for me. Many of our politicians are in their 50s now, and by the time the worst of climate change hits, they will have died of old age, wealthy and comfortable. Younger people see the threat of climate change and feel utterly hopeless for the future. Like, why start a career or build towards something if it's all going to be destroyed? Climate change is part of the reason I've chosen not to have children. I can't justify to myself bringing another human being into a world facing inevitable destruction, and I'm sure there are others who feel the same way. The declining birth rate in Australia is undoubtedly linked to the government's utter failure to ensure a future for our nation. My depression led to me having a mental breakdown. The biggest stressor that led to that was work. I was dreadfully unhappy where I was, and I felt trapped. I feared that if I left the job, I would end up in poverty. And that fear is real. When I stopped working, I ended up in poverty. JobSeeker through Centrelink is government mandated poverty. It forces people to struggle with rents, bills and food, as though that will have no effect on a person's mental health. Then there's mutual obligations. While politicians know there are 10 applicants for every job availability, they'll still force people to apply for 20 jobs a month and face rejection hundreds of times a year, as though rejection on that kind of scale will have no effect on a person's mental health. Both the Liberal and Labor parties mutually agree that no Australian working a full-time job deserves to live in poverty. While that might sound good, the implication is if you work less than a full-time job, you do deserve poverty. And together they've designed a system to ensure that. I don't care if you work a full-time job or never work a day in your life, nobody deserves poverty. We in Australia can end poverty forever. We just need a government that wants to do it, and right now we don't even have an opposition that wants to do it. Vote independent, vote third party. We will never get the change we want and need. We'll never get a government that cares, that leads through understanding and empathy if we keep voting for and electing the same people. I hope you are well, and thank you for your time.